So I would like to welcome everybody and thank you for joining today's webinar on Global Experts' Opinion on Logistic Strategies post COVID-19. My name is Gurcharan and I'm founder and director at Logistic Technologies. I would like to welcome all our speakers who will be giving an insight on logistic operation post this crisis and how companies can strategize their business to rise again. Since our speakers are from different geographies, they can give you a visual of global scenarios of the new logistic approach. And I hope all our attendees who will be able to get good insight out of this webinar and can implement same in their business processes and generate new opportunities and safeguard their employees and business. So without a further ado, let me begin with the intro about our panelists. The first, Geoffrey Mawowe. Geoffrey is the chairman of Courier Industry Association of Kenya. He is having 10 years of experience in handling largest courier network in the Kenya. As the chairman of Courier Association, he is working in close coordination with the industry and government in defining the policies and rules to support the growth of the logistic industry. Ryan is the founder and director of ADS Express, Malaysia. ADS is into air freight logistics, handling a lot of shipments from China and Malaysia to Southeast Asia, Oceania, and USA. John is the president and owner of global e-commerce technology company UK. He comes with 40 years of experience of handling the worldwide logistic distribution. The next is Mr. Rakesh. Rakesh has started his career with Indian Navy, and he started his entrepreneurial debut as founder and managing director of SCM For You, a company which deals in warehousing, transportation, import-export, and last-mile delivery for e-commerce companies. Last but not the least, Mr. Vikas. Mr. Vikas Khatri is a management consultant and a professional with an experience of over 20 plus years in strategy, business transformation, supply chain, and logistics. He has worked with various industries, logistics, healthcare, FMCG at different capacity. He is a management graduate from IIM Indore. And in 2016, Vikas founded Evidol Consulting, a domain-focused advisory in the field of logistics and supply chain. So thanks again to all the panelists for taking up your time and be present over here, and also to all the attendees who have joined it, and the other attendees whom we will be seeing will be joining gradually to the webinar. So to begin with it, as every company has been struggling, every country is finding out its own solutions to run their business, to run the industry. So Geoffrey, my first question to you, for the next 1 year, what strategies logistic companies could be following in this mid of low demand, high cost, and stringent government regulations on social distancing, containment zones?
Thanks, Gurcharan, for having me on this webinar, and I hope we're going to share experiences across the globe and various approaches during this particular unprecedented situation that the globe is facing, where we've seen disruptions that have now been seen in the entire of our generation, and even I think even a generation before us. And I think when you talk about strategy, I think about this time, the disruption in itself has actually, come in with a whole lot of new scenarios that we've not experienced in the past. And as you all aware, I mean, the classical way of describing strategy is predictability. I mean, the currency for strategy is how well you're able to predict. And when you look at the information available to the entire globe or to the business leaders, in order to be able to formulate strategies to navigate through the disruption that the globe is experiencing, you will be in a point of appreciating that we have the most unpredictable and the most uncertain situation that presents an unsurmountable challenge to business leaders in as far as their ability to plan and strategies for the future. So looking at the data available for business leaders to make reference, we do not have any equivalent information available for business leaders to be able to relate and draw patterns, because this is a new phenomenon, as I mentioned. The data available that business leaders can now start drawing patterns on how to address the future would obviously be available from the various models that have been put across. And I mentioned the World Bank report, for instance, where it's projecting a contraction of economies. In Africa, we're looking at a possibility of contraction of the African economy by about 2%, to the range of 2 to -5%. In the Kenyan economy, we are looking at a contraction from a projected growth rate of about 5.5%, and going down to about a percentage. And on a worst case scenario, will contract by 1.5%. I mean, that situation in itself, if you look at the information again that economists are relying on to do their prediction, we are relying on epidemiology models that are being created by scientists that in themselves have not actually even been able to tell us what the situation will be in the coming few months. So in the best case scenario, when we look at it, we want to work on assumptions that the containment measures that governments have been able to pull in place will probably start easing the movement of goods and people, probably the earliest, or the very earliest, is about August. And so is how we then try and start looking at how then do we plan, how then do we strategize. And with that level of uncertainty, I think businesses can only start having strategic approaches that are more adaptive, so that they can be able to put in measures that will enable them to react and act as fast as possible. They need to put in measures or strategic approaches that are more visionary, so that whenever this situation unfolds and presents the future, then the organizations that will have predicted this best will be quick and fast enough to be there fast in order to seize the opportunities that will definitely present themselves. And obviously being the market leaders that will shape the future at that particular time. But the overriding and the overarching strategy for businesses to navigate through this period is all about how are you able to preserve your resources in a sustainable way in order to be able to be there when this situation is over. And the key issues that organizations need to look at during the COVID period is key areas of how they can be able to sustain themselves. You would appreciate that most logistics operations operate with a huge fixed cost base. And so it presents a huge challenge on then how do you deal with such? You probably have fixed costs in property, in people, in vehicle, and capital that is fixed into your business, that then you must think and how do you work on sustaining that all through? And this calls on people to start looking at how and where to play, because there's specific sectors that have been significantly affected. Like for instance, the airline and tourism sector is nearly almost collapsed and closed. We're looking at key areas like how do you then be able to sustain your cash flow. So it's butcher and so to say, I think in the coming 1 year, it's one uncertain, but then it's about organizations being able to differentiate themselves in order to be able to one, survive the COVID period, and in order to be able to come out strong and seize opportunities that will come out there. And I think let me just stop it there and welcome the other panelists in just my comments.
Thank Geoffrey for great insight from your side. So Ryan, you being in into the 3PL logistics space, into the international logistics, air freight logistics. So from the 3PL side into the international logistics. So what do you see the new strategies that 3PL should be following it up in the current situation?
Okay, currently in the air freight is kind of a messy arrangements, because every day you have flight cancellations, you have shipments get offloaded because there's actually not enough of what they call airspace to go out. Yeah, and pricings are going up very, very high. Price right now are actually more than double from the pre-COVID periods, and coupled with that, So now we're seeing a lot of flight chartering out from China's or from other parts of Asia's into different countries, because you can no longer depend on the commercial airlines that are not flying. So yeah, I mean, chartering flights is one of it between regions in this part of the world, and also trucking as well. We see a lot of trucking from China out to the rest of the world. Yeah, so that's actually getting more compared to the pre-COVID periods. Yeah, because the price are actually increasing too much. Right now, if you want to ship something up from China, the only things that you can ship is medical supplies, because the price and demand by the air freights, if you work it out with your normal goods, it don't make sense at all. Yeah, it's too high the price to move it out. Yeah, so we see a lot of 3PL companies, they are working out together to charter flights out. Each flight, commercial flights, they're converted to become a cargo flights. You can carry about 9 PMC, so probably about 2-3 companies, they will charter flights, and yeah, they will move things out from there. So that's what we are seeing from here.
Okay, so you are saying like more of chartered flights are the only options which are more economical in the current scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you see like because of this like air freight is moving down, so the sea freight is taking its space, like because when you say like only medical supplies are moving out from China, so for the rest of the material which was earlier moving through air freight is now moving through sea freight.
Okay, yeah, there are quite a portion of moving to sea freight, but there's another issue with sea freight is that a lot of countries are on lockdowns, so even the sea freight are arriving to the ports, they're having a struggles to bring the container out and perform the distributions. So a lot of ports actually are very congested right now. They are mostly up to 100% of their capacities. Yeah, so sea freight also is another problem, but the better ways is actually still air freight, because air freight still moving quite smoothly compared to the seaports.
Okay, great, thanks. So John, with this lockdown of the most of the economies in Europe and as well now in US, a major part of it. So what change in the user online purchasing habits you are seeing or you expect to see in coming months, and how you see this will impact the e-commerce logistics?
Well, two questions really, but the move towards, like I said with Ryan, the move towards ocean freight and rail across the Siberian railroad system into Europe, huge demands there. I think the airspace is going to be a problem ongoing. I don't think we're going to recover from that very quickly. Obviously, a lot of carriers are changing their aircraft to accommodate more cargo, but again, that makes it very expensive. And I see a lot of priority in terms of medical, etc., as Ryan has said. So having said that, I think the move towards ocean freight will solidify, I think, the opening up of receiving terminals and distribution is beginning to settle down a bit. So I think we're going to have to move away from air freight more into the ocean freight category. I think that's a good thing, to be honest. I think if we pre-plan correctly, then there's no reason why we should depend solely on air freight. You still have the FedExes, the UPSs, the DHLs of this world that can move the day-to-day stuff. But I think forward planning by buyers and sellers need to look more towards the ocean freight capability. Having said that, obviously with the payment structures and e-commerce, traditionally e-commerce meant B2C, business to consumer. That's drastically changing now to a more hybrid model of B2B, business to business. That means somebody, in KL can sell product immediately to somebody in the UK or in China, depending on the location, and order the product as if they were ordering it on eBay or Amazon. I think the changes in the mentality towards moving towards trustful relationships are important. And I think as we as logistics providers and e-commerce providers, we can add a huge benefit to that part of the transaction. And if we look at as far as a uncharted waters, I guess is the limitations we have at the moment. But you know, logistics has been around since the invention of the wheel, and we are always, as we know, Gertrude, very innovative. And when we're challenged to provide a solution, it's amazing how people around the world gather together to find that solution. And I think probably if we work together as a global community, you know, as Jeffrey said, I think we will actually benefit hugely out of this calamity. And I hope that the environment won't struggle, and I hope a lot of people will be saved because of it. So I think there's a lot of people out there in the world that are dependent on us as logistics professionals to find a solution, and not necessarily to depend on the governments to find that solution, because they really have no idea what we do on a day-to-day basis. So, and having said that, I would like to just complete my sentence with the fact that technology is the only driver. That will be the element that will push us out of this situation. So thank you.
Thanks, John. Vikas, my next question to you, like as you've been working a lot of planning and designing of the supply chain network and all, so like post-COVID, like what do you see for warehousing and distribution? Would there be more of a centralized warehousing or decentralized warehousing? As we have seen, like John and Ryan, they were talking about like air freight and sea freight, and how like shipment will be moving more from air to sea, and we need to do more of forward planning and all this stuff. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, so definitely we see a change in the warehousing pattern, as well as because this pandemic, we cannot say it will be the immediate, because everybody is in the short term. We should divide the impact on immediate term, short term, and long term. Immediate term, everybody is in crisis. It's the crisis management where logistics is badly impacted. If I take the example of Indian economy, so I see during the last month, logistic activity was at the almost 20% of what it used to be. Only the rail freight for the coal or something like that type of commodities was moving, or essential commodities were moving. But when we go to the midterm, which is I will say not midterm, short to midterm, next 1 year, the period will be seeing a revival, changing of the plans. Everybody will be preparing themselves. Then we should see the long term. Long term will be definitely some good thing can happen to the logistics as well as the economy will be growing. As far as your question related to centralized versus decentralized is linked. Earlier, we saw the centralization of the warehouses. In Indian context, GST was a driver, or in a global scenario, I can say that everybody says works out on the cost economics. And larger warehouse, automation is much more possible, throughput is higher, all those benefits were there. But the flip side, we have seen during this pandemic time. If your one large warehouse is in the red zone, or impacted zone, your overall supply chain has gone for a toss. So this driver will cause for a decentralization. Decentralization will not be like the earlier that instead of one warehouse, I will be going for 20 warehouses across geography. There will be definitely a planning. First thing will be near the consumption center. Since this, if I see overall supply chain, how it is going to impact it, definitely the procurement will also get impacted. Earlier, 28% of world production was from one geography. When that get impacted in January, every company was in chaos. What will happen? That was good part. That was their New Year festival. Everyone was prepared for next 20 days or 30 days. But if it was not there, so they are going to change in their procurement policy on the downstream. That will get impacted in their downstream as well in the distribution side. So what I see, that this will give a major demand to omni-channel strategy. More number of warehouses catering to multiple channels and nearer to the customer. That I am seeing. Because some of the activities, if I convert it into the real estate terms, I see that will be a dip in the commercial real estate demand. But that some of that space might be occupied by the warehousing companies or the distribution center, because these malls or the commercial places are nearer to the customer. So definitely there will be a rebalancing, or I will say rules will be rewritten of the centralization versus decentralization. And everybody would like not to risk their supply chain with such a unforeseen circumstances. So definitely there will be a decentralization activity. It will give a surge to decentralization, but not in a way of omni-channel will be a way out for this.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I understand. Like omnichannel is the keyword these days, and everybody is looking into it because we have seen like whole of the supply chain is when dependent on one network, and that network goes off. So everything, the whole of your supply chain get crippled up. So my next question to Rakesh. Rakesh, like as you are into the full truckload business, so what change you see like in the full truckload business post lockdown, as now the industry will start taking shape and start moving?
So like as Mr. Vikash and Geoffrey has also mentioned, so like there will be different phases. Like the first phase will be of a high demand, which we are expecting, because at the moment this lockdown was announced, a lot of year-end inventory was about to move, and it was caught in between, because March is a month where almost all the companies are manufacturing, and they are closing their year in March. So March is the month where maximum transportation takes place. But it was interrupted by say 25th, this lockdown was announced in India. So everything was stopped wherever it was. So what we are seeing in a very short run, there will be a sort of a 150% demand, which will come all of a sudden once the lockdown is eased, which we'll be seeing, like say after say 4th of the May now. And once this surge is over, thereafter, like we are seeing that there will be a bit of a dip, but then again, we are expecting at least 60% of the transportation will be revived for some time, because there for say almost for 2 months there was no production, and the production activity will start from say 4th, so it will build up, and once this first surge of 120% is over, by that time the 60% thing will start. But thereafter we are seeing that no, there will be a sort of a dip. So it will take at least 5 to 6 months for the entire transportation sector to come back to say I must say 70% of the demand which is which was existing pre COVID, I must say.
Okay. Thank you. So Geoffrey, so next is so we have seen what the scenario is there, and now as all companies are exploring how to adopt or how to move out from this thing. So what new technologies that you will see, like as has been mentioned in our by different panelists, like John also have mentioned, like technology is the key now. So from your side, like what technology you see that logistic companies would be adopting in Africa to manage and retain their business post-COVID?
Thanks, Kuchara. And I think the first thing is the technology to apply around this time, so as to be able to navigate and come through the COVID season and exit very strong, as I earlier mentioned. And all that is highly dependent on data. So the technology we are looking at here is Gucharan, just confirm that I'm there.
Yeah, you're there. Yes,
yes.
yes.
Okay, so something seems to have gone off on my screen.
Yeah,
so what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
it's significant investment in data management and information management tools that will be able to help an organization to anticipate, collect enough information, current and emerging information that can be able to build enough predictive tools that will enable the organization come out of the situation strong. And in this case, the technology to be applied should be one that, yes, many organizations that have come in and are using intelligent logistics management information tools, but then we need to go beyond that and collect all the information that is coming out of there and analyze it very well in order to be able to make key decisions that will help the organization to fully optimize its resources and cost drivers around this time, and help it to come out strong. Now, looking at key technologies that are now coming into focus right during this time, the containment measures obviously require that we have contactless or minimize contact at a point of peak and delivery. So we're looking at contactless delivery and collection tools, technology tools, that then at that particular point, you would then allow a customer or a pickup point to have a transaction with the minimal or the least level of contact. And in order to give a service assurance and the security that is required alongside that transaction, then you need to intelligently start looking at how then do you close the gap that comes out of exiting the transaction contact. So in this case, you're looking at tools that will enable you to pick up actual location of peak in a sense that that gives you a confidence that the collection and the delivery was actually done at the right place and the right timing, and again gives the customer and the consumer that level of assurance. Proper tracking and real-time information management tools that will be able to give, because we are seeing the shift into more of remote working and home working situations. There is an increased demand of last mile home deliveries, office deliveries, and even we're seeing an emergence of organization like the health sector. We're seeing an emergence of patients needing to have their medicine delivered in homes rather than them having to go and collect their prescription medicine from the hospital. So in that, we need tools that can be able to close the gaps that are coming in with the opportunities and giving the service assurance at the same time. Let me just drop it there and open it for the other panelists.
Right. Yes. Here. So, John, so in the same side, like as Geoffrey is referring to the express logistics space, where our last mile delivery will be playing and contactless logistics will be playing. So same thing, like I would just like to check, like in e-commerce, it's been now said like that e-commerce will increase by 50% with the existing market share of 10% to like 15% market share. So which all technologies that will play a key role for the e-logistics to manage this set of boom in the business, that it will be getting to it, like from procurement to warehousing to last mile delivery to selling to return logistics and all?
Yeah, I think it's it's going to be quite a big impact on the models that exist already, like Amazon, for instance. I was just reading that in the first quarter of last year compared to the first quarter of this year, growth is up 26%. 26% runs into the billions. So this is just an example of the growth from e-commerce, and year on year globally, it's growing at something like 20% compounded. So the key for me really is in the business to business side. So you've got to onboard the businesses on a global basis, buying and selling similar to the platforms that exist for the consumers. And by bringing those on board, then you capitalize, if you like, on the visibility of the supply chain. You can manage it more effectively because you know where the products are, what the status of those products are, and you can trade globally on a lot better scale than you can just locally. I totally agree with Vikash in that decentralization is going to be the key moving forward in the medium to long term. And I totally acknowledge that. But having visibility to those stocks like we have on our program globally will have a huge benefit to business and manufacturers and supply chains throughout the world. Without the visibility, without it, you're no better off than we were 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So I think this will push us to dramatically increase the pressure, and it'll be on the #1 priority on boardroom strategies over the next while to find out how best we can use technology to optimize our supply chains, keep the costs down, and just-in-time inventory on a global basis, keep our customers happy. And you can only do that with technology. And I think we have the solution for that already. So thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Sean. So because like as you are more into planning and designing, so again on this side, like so how you see the distribution and local deliveries will be reshaped now, as Geoffrey has mentioned, like yes, there will be increase in demand. John has mentioned, like yes, it's about the visibility across the globe, and this technology will be used a lot for providing predictability, visibility, traceability. And so from an planning perspective, somebody who is designing whole of this operations network, so could you give us any precise like how these things will be reshaped now?
So I do agree with John's point that definitely it is going to have impact significantly, and as I said, it will be omni-channel. So now when we will be designing it, it will be the smaller catchment area and faster replenishment time. That will be the key thing in the future designing purpose. So far earlier we were saying that e-com deliveries were taking place in few days, then it came to 1 day, next day delivery. Now it will be becoming to few hours delivery. We have seen a change in consumption pattern, especially if we talk about the India. We have seen that companies like Big Basket or Grofers has seen surge in 600%, 700% demands. People who were not buying essential products through online, now they are moving. This will be a win-win for the e-com delivery company, but this will put a pressure completely redesigning the network, because they will be fighting with the next door mom and pop store. How it will be? So one thing which I am seeing, it will be a combination of online and offline type of business model. It will not be purely online, it will not be purely offline. The way recently we have seen that Facebook and Jio, what they are planning is a combination hybrid of online and offline, where replenishment center or your nearest DC becomes your next door store, or a store situated, or a DC situated in a periphery of 2 kilometer or 3 kilometer. So complete network is going to redesign, and replenishment model to these DCs is going to reshape. This definitely, it's a very early stage to say that what model will be evolving, but we are seeing a great shift in the distribution model. Something can be like, if I take the example of conventional FMCG delivery. Earlier there was a distributor used to cater to your retailer and retailer to your home. These distributor, in future, these distributor can become your DC point. They can cater to both channel. They can become your small omni-channel DC catering to your home as well as to your retailer, to other channels, institutional channel. So there will be a, I will say, convergence of all the channels and with a smaller catchment area.
Right. Okay, so as Vikas is saying, like, okay, the things are still not clear. Yes, there will be a big change to it. So that brings me to you, Ryan, as you have been closely working with logistic companies in China. So I would like to have your thoughts. I know a lot of our audience also they would be interested in to know how the logistic companies in China are handling their business post COVID, because see, we are in the phase of either reaching to the spike or we are on a spike, and we are not over with it. And China has been over with it. Might be they go with second phase or something like that, but till now they are over. Their economy has started moving out. So what changes you have observed recently in Chinese logistic company business model? Ryan, your voice is mute. Could you just look into it?
Sorry about that. Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
All right. Sorry, Guru. Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely a new way of doing business in China. So right now, if a package were about to deliver to you, so you will receive a message that will inform you the temperature of the guy that will deliver a parcel to you. Yeah, so to ensure that he's not on fever or on anything. Yeah, and obviously contactless now is the main keywords in our industries. So people will just leave the parcel there for you, pick it up, and you move. And whereas in the airports, we see a lot of sanitizations is moving around. So for logistics in China, definitely there's a huge cost right now to operate, because for every shipment to move out, we got to sanitize it before you move up to the airlines. So yeah, there's another cost that will be involved, and with the technologies, people need to be informed that who are the ones that dealing with them, in contact with them, to ensure that with any outbreaks that happens, it can be detected. So there's a lot of records takings and records keepings in China nowadays. Besides of keeping the data of your shipments, we now need to keep records of the persons that we interact with. Yeah, all the contractors, the vendors that's coming along. Yeah, so that's what's happening in China right now, and it's definitely a challenge to get manpower now in China, because people are quite afraid of working sometimes. Yeah, so that's what's happening in China.
Wow, okay, that's quite a new thing. Like, okay, yes, so for every parcel that is moving out, you need to keep a trail of the human, the person who has handled that parcel.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. So with this, Rakesh, I just want to speak with you about the contactless logistic. I know, like, you are already working something on this line. So could you just share, like, how you are working on it, and what all processes that you have followed for this contactless logistics in your company? I think Rakesh might have. Okay. So we will wait for the Rakesh to join. In the meanwhile, uh, so John, I just want to check, like, with you. So what all investment you see, like an industry or the logistic companies would be making, or they need to make to tackle this business disruption? As Ryan has mentioned it out, what they are doing in China. So any other areas from your side which you foresee an investment logistic company need to make?
Yes, I mean the impact is driven to the board, as I said earlier. The impact to companies and manufacturers, the expectation that the logistics provider will fill the gap between the various partners, so the buyer and the seller. So we come in between. So the investment is an expectation by the client on us as logistics providers to provide all of the links in the supply chain to them. And because there's no direct integration in most parts to the seller and the buyer. we become an intermediary. Well, we've always been an intermediary, but they're relying more and more on logistics providers and technology to ensure that that happens. You can't physically, if you do a comparison, say, to a company like FedEx or Amazon, a traditional air freight office of a freight forwarder, if you like, maybe a one desk would handle maybe 20 to 40 shipments a day, with all the paperwork and customs and formulations and stuff like that. It's very manual process. Whereas the integrators, they've integrated a lot of that data between the buyer and the seller. They already know who the buyer is. They already know who the seller is. They can communicate those elements together to offer a complete visibility of the supply chain. Even like Ryan said, down to the person who's delivering it, the PDA will show what the temperature is of the individual delivering it. That data can only be done through technology. It cannot be done manually. So logistics providers need to step up. And I read a report a couple of days ago about the demand on technology companies that freight forwarders need to step up from this manual process, if you like, into a much steeper investment into technology to make it easier for their clients to do business, to manage the door-to-door environment, not just up to airport and say cheerio, see you later. This is going to be an integrated form. It's going to be handled the same process, as I said before, between the e-commerce and the B2B. So the B2C model will soon become the B2B model, and the expectations of exporters and importers will be on that basis. And the ones that are left behind will get left behind. The ones that innovate and buy into, if you like, the technology that we provide, then I think there will be huge transition, and that will be where the investment will be made and where the profit will be made, and the future past this COVID and any other viruses that may come along in the future.
Right, that's right. Okay, so we just conducted a poll on like what technologies or our audience is seeing that will be making a big impact. And I see like the maximum is 63% is going to for the contactless pickup and delivery. And after it's about blockchain, and then rest of the things, either it's automation or digitization, it's all 8%. So what I see to it, everybody is saying like contactless pickup and delivery will be the key things that every logistic company need to follow it out and need to implement it out going forward. And second thing is blockchain. That's very surprising, as we did. So John, once again to you, because you have been working in this all data exchange between different entities out. So could you highlight anything about the blockchain in logistics from your experience?
Yes, you know, with the blockchain, I mean that basically is the supply chain. You validate each part of the transaction, and it can't be changed. So you're only adding data. So all these elements like contact, pickup, delivery, contactless pickup, delivery, drones, automation, loading, and data exchange between logistics stakeholders, digitization, all depends on technology. And for that technology to be verified, blockchain is probably the only way that you can depend on it. It has to be totally secure. And right now, for instance, I'll give you an example, a very good example. Out of China, we're destroying hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of masks and stuff that is come in from China or from other sources, and it doesn't pass the regulatory statement required for being protection equipment. So these are frontline workers that are receiving or have ordered product through governments or third parties, and they've arrived, but they're not up to standard. So they offer very little protection. Blockchain would alleviate that. False paperwork, fake documents, fake technology, that'll go by the wayside, because the blockchain will be accountable, and I can't see a way around it. Although I'm sure there's some scammers out there that would love to do it. But the blockchain will protect, because it actually passes on the data all the way along and be verified by the next party. So yes, I mean, the future of the supply chain and the accuracy and the trust, which I mentioned in my first statement, will depend heavily on the technology and the blockchain behind it. And I'm glad to see that a lot of other people online realize that potential is yet to be uncovered in full. And look forward to that as the next stage to ensure that, we've got, with the B2B environment, properly organized and verified and secure.
Right. Yes, that's true. So, Geoffrey, I would just like to check with you. So, what new business scopes you feel it will be rising in post-COVID? What new business scope do you think that will be rising? And so, before you start answering to this, I would like to all our audience that they can share their questions with us. So, after the answer from Geoffrey, we will be taking up a few of those questions. Yeah, kindly, Geoffrey, kindly go ahead.
Thanks, Gujaran. And I like what John said, that we'll see a big shift from what B2B models have been, and there will be a big shift from B2B models into B2C. So that's an emerging area of opportunity, because the globe is now learning that working from home is likely to become a new norm, where we are wasting lesser time in traffic, and we can actually work from the places where someone is able to get to their workplace within the shortest while possible. And being that COVID might be here with us longer, I think we need to start looking at whatever measures and opportunities that are coming up during COVID, and trying to look at such as opportunities for the future. So when you look at it, there has been significant disruptions, and the disruptions in the conventional sectors, some contracting, some others shutting down. So quite well that there are areas that will be on a shutdown for quite some time. But interestingly is the disruptions of the global networks. So specifically the networks that are highly dependent on passenger air and road transport. So then this brings in an opportunity for logistics operators to start looking at how else to start moving cargo. And I'm glad to start noting that locally here and across the globe, we're seeing a new shift where passenger aircraft are actually converting into cargo aircrafts. We're seeing public passenger vehicles now that they can't carry passengers anymore. They're actually now converting and becoming cargo carriers. And the emergence of quite a number of small startups that are now re-energized to take up the space that is opening up in the last mile deliveries and errands for people who are working from homes, and also addressing the emerging new needs in e-commerce. We're seeing, as well as the e-commerce sector, now shifting from areas of where we're seeing new sectors embracing online orders, like the spare parts, home care products, food items, people making such orders online more than they were before the COVID season. And as I mentioned, home working presents a huge opportunity where people need to start looking at how then do we then exploit the opportunities that are coming out of that, and shaping that to be future of logistics operators.
Okay, thanks, Geoffrey. So meanwhile, we got one question, so anybody could answer it out. So the question is about, like, people are saying out, like, with a slowdown in the consumer consumption for non-essential items and lower buying capacity. So do you see like how this both things will be impacting the kind of logistic activity that will happen it out? Because if you could answer.
So definitely will be a slowdown now in the consumption pattern, and this is the human behavior, human psychology. We should also correlate with the human psychology or consumer behavior. So currently we are seeing only the essential consumption. Suppose that non-essential will be in opening up, but will opening up of the non-essential will multiply my demand? Answer is no. It will reduce the demand because of the consumption pattern. We are in a lockdown of, half of the world is in the lockdown of more than 2 months, which is going to change their consumption habits, one thing. Plus the day when we went for the lockdown, the material in the overall supply chain was there. It's not there zero. So logistics is not going to get any benefit out of post lockdown, because material at inventory at the retail is there, inventory at the warehouse is there, inventory at the plant warehouse is there. As it is stopped. Second point I would like to see now, essential, non-essential. I will go to the capital goods. Capital goods, since because of each and every company is facing the crisis of the working capital, investment on the capex will reduce, which will again impact to the logistics because material will not move. Fourth angle to this is the government spending. Government spending, currently we are seeing that government spending has increased, but post the lockdown every government needs to look its budget also. Definitely there will be curtailment on the infrastructure budget or something on the development project, so that will having impact on this your logistics. In large infrastructure projects, definitely all those got delayed, is impacting the logistics. So in the short run of the next 1 year, I am seeing logistics is going to get impacted severely. Short is almost, I will say, is zero. It's not zero, but for the discussion purpose, I am saying zero. But after opening up, post lockdown, even it is will be having severe impact on the logistics. Any of the revival I see in the next financial year 21-22.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
So
I would like to say something in answer to that as well, Gertrude. I mean, if I understood the question correctly, as buyers have less money because they're obviously not employed or otherwise, they will spend less.
right.
Factories are less manufacturing because they don't have the supplies to get to the factory to make the products. Of course, different parts of the world are impacted differently. I mean, I'll give an example. For instance, in the States, a couple of meat factories had to close down because of COVID, and that's now caused a global, not global, a US problem for meat distribution, and they're worried about it going up in price. So if you use that as a poor example of what's happening on a worldwide basis, I think as companies are going bankrupt in many countries, the trust element's gone because they can't get the supplies to the factory to produce things like garments or technical stuff. I think that will have an impact, yes, for sure. And hopefully, though, like Vikash said, I hope that is actually a temporary situation, because the sooner we get people back to work, the sooner we can get them to earn income and start spending again, the better it will be for the global economy. If that doesn't happen, then I'm very concerned, put it that way, that the impact would be rather bad for everybody, without going into further detail. But hopefully we pull out of it and fast, and we can get everybody back to work, factories back humming, and we'll find a solution to distancing ourselves and making sure that everybody's back online again. But I don't think that's going to happen in the near future.
I have if I can just add, I'm seeing a silver lining as far as our position in India is concerned. Our government is stable as of now for, say, next 4-5 years, and our neighbor, the manufacturer who is supplying to the world, is not seen in a better light. So we see that there is going to be some manufacturing activity which is likely to shift from China to India, because India being the other preferred destination where this manufacturing can pick up, and this might reduce the demand gap which otherwise would have been larger.
Right, right. Yes. So Rakesh, I do understand this thing. Like, yes, there is a lot of optimism in the air, like about like companies might be looking India as a next manufacturing hubs, and if they are moving from it. But I know Vietnam is doing quite good. Ryan was telling me up about the Vietnam economy, and we have been discussing a lot about that, and we are seeing like even Thailand is also. Is very promising and inviting a lot of these companies to invest in Thailand. So, so till the time, like when, as Vikas has mentioned it out, it's a short term and long term. We see like for the next 1 year, yeah, the thing will be very very tough for us, as John also mentioned, as people will come back to the job, as the things start moving it up. It will be a gradual stuff. It won't be like everything got stopped on a single day. Now, restarting whole of the economy is not that easy for everybody else. So till this next 1 year, how you see any logistic companies could work around to keep their books positive and be able to survive this whole period of next 9 to 12 months?
I think that is the most important question, like now, which is troubling the entire industry, and that is that now, like transportation, if you see, is a like a capital intensive industry where we normally say it's the exchange of money. As to know, like the moment you are putting your truck on road, it needs diesel, it needs a lot of other things. So the entire, once this entire demand will dip by, say, if not more, if I'm very very optimistic, say by say 20%, then still like this 20% less demand will put a lot of stress on this capital intensive industry. And the one thing which we have to do is like now we have to reduce costs. We have to see as to know how we can reduce costs, and that cost reduction will also be very very minuscule, seeing that the major cost which goes into transportation is diesel. So once we look into that, and plus the stress of loan, so thankfully government is supportive of on this part, that some moratorium of say almost 3 months is given initially, and we are sure that no, government will definitely look into this part so that some more relief comes on this front. But just to take care of costs, the other this thing we have to see as to know what all places are there where we can reduce these non-value added activities, in the sense how we can reduce this communication gap or the visibility gap, and there the technology comes into play. And like once we this technology is as of now more prevalent in e-commerce, where visibility is almost say 95%, but the same is not there in a trucking industry. Trucking industry still goes on this thing that no, you call up a person, you call up a transporter, and he will come at his own time. The timing will not be known to the factory. The factory labor will be waiting, and ultimately the truck will not come. So all these non-value added activities can be reduced by introducing technology. Once we know that this technology is put in place, for example, a geofence, if you just geofence a warehouse, so you will know before, and if the demand is given for the truck to come, or the pickup request is there. So the moment truck enters this geofence, an alert will be given to the warehouse, and warehouse is prepared to receive the truck. There the technology plays the role, and plus normal, like now with the influx of COVID, we would be looking for say contactless logistics. So at security, the truck need not be checked for the documents, because all these documents will be digitally available to the security head before the truck enters. So it will be a smoother entry of truck into the warehouse. Once it is loaded, the invoice and other things can be given with a digital invoice, and other papers can be given, and then it can leave. And once it reaches the client's place, before reaching itself, a pre-alert will be there, because once it enters the geofence of the client, a pre-alert will be generated, and the client would know beforehand as to the truck is coming, and that particular bay is then allotted. And again, this what you call contactless logistics is possible, where you need not have any paper which you need to check. You can do a QC, you can clear a truck, and you can give a EPOD, which is which will now come into place. As of now, the hard copies are the only thing which is taken as a proof. So technology has to work on this extensively to see that we come into an era of EPODs rather than continuing with the normal PODs, which we are having as of now. In addition to this, the trucks, when they move from one toll plaza to another toll plaza, they are stopped for checking of papers. So in this era of COVID, you cannot have that. There is more chances of coronavirus which can affect the driver, because there are a lot of exchange of papers at many locations. So with technology, you can ensure that you have both the visibility and the power to fight this pandemic.
Okay, thanks.
Sir,
Yes.
adding to this, because one side is the operational efficiency. Your question was on the how this sector will be surviving or what company should do. Basically, if you take 2 or 3 key takeaway from this, one is your agility. Company need to be agile. Company need to be adaptive of the new situation, and company need to be quickest. These three will be the need of every organization going forward. Minimize your fixed cost expenses. Variable expenses will be there. Once your business grow, your variable will be growing. And as Rakesh added, operational efficiency can be used in the variable expenses, but fixed expenses in this crisis situation, company need to reduce all those to a bare minimum, necessary and essential level, because only then they can. Once the situation is over, market is growing, then definitely growth is not a big thing, but you will have to adapt to the new situation, new geography. You need to relook your core area, core strength area. No need to invest money in your non-core area. Will be a key learning for the companies in this next 1 year, which will be a tough year for the industry.
Right. Yes, because that's rightly said. I suppose Geoffrey started same thing in his first answers. That yes, the company needs to be agile, and there needs to be more adaptive to whatever is happening, because the things are not pretty much clear what's going to happen at all. So it's the flexibility and agility of the company that will help them to realign their focus, realign their business in respective to the changing demand. So with this, I think we are done with our time that we have allotted. I would like to thanks all our panelists to take up your time and give such a valuable insight. I'm sure all our attendees would be able to get a lot of insight to how logistics is taking shape and how companies across the globe are finding new solutions to get out of COVID. One thing that's a key take from this whole discussion is there. the technology going to play a big role of it, and it's both on bringing the efficiency and also safeguarding, as Ryan has mentioned about like how in China they are using technologies of safeguarding the taking of the temperature and recording who is handling the shipments or not. Contactless logistic is the key. As John has mentioned it out, like all the visibility of the material where it's lying out across the globe, and providing the right status will be a key aspect for the e-commerce, which is will be one of a key area where everybody should or be looking into it, because that's one area which for sure is growing now, the e-commerce logistics, and everybody knows the numbers with 50% growth, and John has mentioned it up like 23% of Amazon growth. So that's an area where every logistics company could explore it out in all their geography, how they can be part of the e-commerce logistics, whether are they part of omni-channel warehousing and distribution, which Vikas had mentioned, or to the international e-commerce shipment movement, as John has been referring to it, or air freight or last mile delivery. So what I could see out, these could be key areas to all our attendees. They could look out in their businesses and how they could be able to sustain their business in this hard times. So with this, I would like to say thanks to everybody, and thanks to be part of this. Thank you. Thanks, John. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Rakesh. Thanks, Vikas. Thanks,
Bye,
Dr.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.